Welcome to the veteran. I'm sorry. Welcome to the VET S.O.S. Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight. It's one of those days I'm tongue tied and everything else. This is great. So remember, don't drown the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. Lifeline. The Veteran Entrepreneurial Spotlight is sponsored by Spearpoint Solutions. Spearpoint Solutions is a one-stop shop for leading-edge products, services, and training from multiple vendors. From AI training to corporate gifts and much more, they have everything you need to help your organization thrive in the modern economy. Check out all the valuable offerings at spearpointonline.com and remember to use the code VETSOS on anything you purchase there. That will help us continue our mission of improving the lives of those who have served. Today, we're sitting down with Dwayne Edwards, founder, owner of VMHA LLC. Dwayne Edwards is the founder of VMHA. He served in the United States Marine Corps for 7 years and earned the rank of captain. Deployed to Iraq in 2008 as an infantry platoon commander and ended his service as an intelligence officer at Marine Corps Intelligence Activity. He knows firsthand the anxiety veterans feel when thinking about seeking mental health support. As suicide awareness officer, he increased the awareness of suicide warning signs to help service members recognize them as cries for help and not as signs of weakness. Dwayne has expertise in product management, design strategy, and innovation, and has held executive roles at Capital One and IDEO. He received his BA in philosophy, politics, and law from Binghamton.
Binghamton.
I cannot
I
read
know
or
that's
talk today.
it's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. And the first company was IDEO. It's called IDEO, but it's all good.
IDEO. There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for correcting me. It's here we go. We're on a roll today. All right. An MBA from Yale. I know Yale. School of Management. Dwayne loves to work out, golf, play poker, and listen to live music. He currently lives in Frisco, Texas with his wife and 3 sons. So, aside from me completely butchering everything in your bio, how are you doing today, Dwayne?
Shawn, I'm doing really, really well. First off, thanks for having me here. Super thrilled to be here, and kind of sharing with you and all of your listeners and whatnot. No, we're doing well. We're actually in New York, about to fly back to the good state of Texas here in about several hours. So glad we got this in before we started traveling.
We may have Wi-Fi on airlines now, but I don't know if it's strong enough to do a stream. All right, so let's start with the transition piece. How was your transition?
Yep. Yeah, great question. So, my transition was, I would call it was eye-opening, right? I'll give you, the reason why I call it eye-opening. When I first, like many veterans, when I was first leaving the service, I thought about my transition into my next role as a function of, what have I done, right? And so I was in infantry, I was in intelligence, and so I could shoot, move, communicate, and lead. And so I moved towards being a special agent in the DEA, like many of us go into law enforcement or things within that track. I was accepted into DEA, and then I was medically disqualified for hearing loss in my left ear. So I was crushed. That was brutally crushing for me. And so, what then had to happen after that, Shawn, I had to transition from, okay, now it's not just what have I done. I have to think about, well, what skills do I want to develop, and where do I want to be, right? And so that was a very different frame in terms of how I thought about myself and my future. And so once I did that, my perspective on what I can do really opened up, right? It was not so just a function of I've done these things. It's no, I have these skills that then translate to these capabilities, right? Or I develop these areas. So then I started looking at, things within technology, things within sales, things within product management. And when I left the service in 2013, I decided to explore, right? Instead of making a firm decision, I'm going to be in this role for the next 10, 15 years. It was, hey, there's a lot of things I don't know. So I'm going to go on a learning journey, right? And this is in hindsight. At the time, there was a bit more frustration, but and what I realized is I was going through a learning journey and figuring out, hey, I like this, I don't like that. Oh, I know more about this, and I thought, oh, here's a gap here. And so business school was one of the best choices I made. That was about a few years after transitioning, where that gave me the ability, Shawn, to round out my skill set and really learn from a bunch of really amazing peers and teachers to really push myself forward. And I think that was one of the best choices I ever made. On top of that, though, one of the things that I think really aided my transition, and the transition is a process, right? It's not a moment in time, it's a process. But it's 2019, I started seeing a therapist. And I did that for about 6 months. And Shawn, when I tell you that was life-changing, it was life-altering professionally and personally. One of the best choices I ever made in my life. And so I I owe a lot of my current success to that momentary pause of dedicating a lot of time and energy to kind of sit back and delve with some things I didn't really delve and touch on before that. So, that's my long-winded way of saying it was a journey. It was eye-opening, and I learned a lot through it.
Uh, First of all, I applaud you for seeking out therapy and knowing that there were some things that you personally had to work on, because that takes strength, right? And it's great that you did that. That while you were telling your story, it reminded me. I've been listening to a lot of biographies lately, audiobook type stuff, and what's really caught my attention, and especially as it applies to transition, is people like Theodore Roosevelt, Winston Churchill. These
Mm,
great people throughout time, how they went from job to job to job to job to job. And it
mm,
wasn't all just politics. It was jumping into being a writer or doing this or doing
mm.
that. And it really hit me going, I always had that mindset I want to get out of the military. I want to find a job. That's my job for the next 16 years until I retire again, or whatever the case may be. I'm like, if all these, historical figures who reach these highest levels of things just continued to jump from thing to thing, and really, sometimes they were worried about where they were going, sometimes they weren't, why can't we do it too? Because there seems to be a stigma about jumping around, right? But
Yep.
eh, I don't know, so I
I
like
think
it.
that's a. Oh, go ahead. No, I
No,
think
good.
it's a great point. I think it's a great point. We'll see. I think there, uh, where there's risk, there's reward, right?
Mhm.
And so the least risky way of going about living life, and not to say it's wrong, but the least risky way is to stick to something that you do well, continue doing that thing, and move on, retire. Nothing wrong with that. If stability is what you want to optimize for, then and you are able to take care of your family, your needs, and whatnot, and you're content and happy with life, by all means. If you want to push yourself to see how you can grow, you're very ambitious and you want to take on the risk, right? Because there's risk in that. There's a stigma in that. There's a perception of you're kind of flaky or you're not committed. There's that exists. But if you also want to say, you know what, I'm willing to take on that risk so that I can grow as a professional and I can maximize my potential, and by all means, I think you've named some great examples of folks who've been able to translate. Athletes do that as well. You've seen, Kobe Bryant when he was, rest in peace, when he moved from basketball to business. Michael Jordan, similarly. Once you understand how to be good and you understand what it takes to be good, you could a lot of times pivot that into other areas. And I think the folks that get it.
Yep, and that having that military discipline, drilled into you really lends itself to, pushing yourself in other areas. So what led
100%.
you to become an entrepreneur? What was that drive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, over the years, in fact, I was talking to my mother-in-law about this the other day. She said, "Yeah, you've always had these ideas, And so, I've had a bunch of ideas over the years, and going to working at IDEO, which is a phenomenal organization, and IDEO is just really known for helping people go from 0 to 1, right? So you have an idea, you want to figure out how to either test it in the market or how to scale it, move it forward, or you're an established company and you need to figure out how to have a new product enter a new market or pivot and how you do that. And so I learned a lot of skills with regards to innovation, design, and strategy. And so I leverage those skills in coaching a lot of startups to small to mid-sized, even large organizations. But I was doing that while being on the corporate ladder, and I think I'm thrilled and gained a lot of experience from that. And then last year, Shawn, my wife was a psychologist, and she was getting her PhD while I was in the military, and that's a big reason that I think I became open to seeing things a bit more, the a bit more human side of things than some of the hard charging perspectives that we gained from our military experience. But she was actually doing assessments for veterans for another company, and I sat back and I was observing the way they were operating, and I think they had good intentions, but we both collectively felt like there were some pain points for both the psychologists and the veterans, and ultimately wouldn't deliver the value proposition of being able to help the veteran open up to then be comfortable sharing, because you'll have a tired psychologist who's seen they're operating and seeing so many clients hour after hour after hour, the veteran will end up realizing that, hey, my psychologist is bogged down and maybe doesn't have the room to care as much. And then, and we can sniff out real in a heartbeat, right? The veteran community, we know if someone's not being authentic, and so that's not a good fit for the veteran. So I looked at that, and literally I said, after about a month of her doing it, I said, you know what? There's a better way, right? It doesn't have to be how this is being done. I did some analysis. I recognized that there were veterans were being forced to make a tough choice, right? So it's either they have free options that tend to be unreliable, though this has gotten better over the years, or they have more expensive options that are charging a premium for this service. And so I said, no, there's a way that we can deliver premium, high quality, and affordable. And so November 21st, we filed the paperwork for the company, and here we are. We've served about 500 veterans now at this point, so I'm really thrilled about that. But that's a story. That's why we started the company.
Perfect segue. Tell us about the company. So what exactly are you guys doing, and what's the goal?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So we provide high quality and compassionate mental health assessments for veterans, right? And so these mental health assessments are specifically for the veteran in support of their VA mental health disability claim. And so it falls within two categories. For some veterans, if they already have an existing mental health diagnosis from the VA, and they're experiencing, more symptoms than their current rating is accounting for, as in their experiences is a bit more challenging than what the VA is compensating them for, they would come to someone like us to then see one of our psychologists to conduct a rating review assessment to say, hey, okay, this is your current rating. Based on this evidence, these experiences, these diagnoses, we recommend, either an increase, same, or decrease, depending on, ethically what's happening for that veteran in that moment. Another service offering is if the veteran, like me, if you were in intelligence and you were maybe concerned about sharing, a bit while you're in, because you were concerned about your clearance and S86, all those things, maybe you weren't as, forthcoming with what you were experiencing at the time. You laugh because, a lot of us,
I was career intel.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you have a lot of folks who aren't service connected for things that they should be service connected for, and now they're not receiving the services compensation support from the VA when they should. They rate it, right? So that's on a micro level, Shawn. But on a macro level, our more strategic objective is we want to have veterans have a positive experience with a psychologist, right? Many veterans, their first experience with a mental health professional, and I've spoken to about 300 plus veterans at this point, and over 50% of them haven't had a positive experience with psychologists, right? And I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm just literally looking at the facts. Either they thought it was too short, or they were uncertain about the diagnosis, or they felt like their psychologist wasn't engaged, right? And so, we're already a resistant population. Like we're a tough group, and so if we go into a situation and we don't feel like our psychologist cares, well, it's going to be kind of tough for us to feel excited to go look for care and follow on treatment from a psychologist moving forward. And so, we're satisfying the micro need of, hey, veteran wants to get compensation services support. Yeah, we'll happily do that. But the experience we're providing is one such that they're feeling cared for. They're speaking to someone that has compassion for their experiences. And for many of them, it now opens them up to looking at mental health and treatment and therapy in a different light. And that's our more strategic objective.
Yeah, I've sat in those rooms with some therapists that you're like, are you even paying attention? You got ear pods in? I mean, what's going on here? So
Yeah,
that's fantastic though, because I think that's a big thing. Because if we can't trust somebody,
that's right.
we're not going to go, and a lot of times we probably chalk it up to the whole community's like that. We're not going to bother, seeking out that care that we need.
That's right.
But
That's right.
hey,
I just
go
spoke
ahead.
to, I literally, so we saw a client 2 weeks ago, and literally that client's friend who's in Thailand reached out to us because their friend who they trusted recommended us. And that word of mouth, it's so, and I say that not to say that, we're great or anything like that, but the more of us, like, like we share, we tell our brothers and sisters what's working, what's not working. And we need more veterans having better experiences with mental health professionals so that they could encourage, their friends, their loved ones, their kids, their parents to go seek that support. And so to your point, that's exactly why this is so important.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we've come down to the end, and we want to thank you, Dwayne, for joining us today on VET S.O.S. It's great that you came on here, shared your entrepreneurial journey with us, and hopefully, our audience can learn a lot from the journey you took, and realize that there's still a lot of avenues out there. So, on behalf of the VET S.O.S family, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And you can find VET S.O.S podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube and various social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you don't miss anything. And remember, don't drown the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S lifeline.
Thanks, Shawn. Really appreciate you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.